Jun-Ho Kim stood by the large window of the Galactic Confederation Hall, watching the alien ships glide through space. 50 years had passed since humans first made contact with the Confederation. 50 years of being called Deathworlders. 50 years of suspicious looks and whispered comments. Enjoying the view, Diplomat Kim? The voice belonged to Counselor Yoon-ji Lee, the official human representative to the Confederation. Just thinking, Jun-Ho replied. After all this time, they still look at us like we might explode. Yoon-ji smiled, but her eyes remained serious. The emergency council meeting starts in 10 minutes. Admiral Park has arrived. Jun-Ho nodded. Admiral Taewon Park was not someone who enjoyed diplomatic meetings, but his presence had been requested. Something big was happening. The council chamber was a huge circular room with seats for representatives of all 217 species in the Confederation. Humans had been the newest addition, and they still received the most stares. Diplomat Kim greeted a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. I trust Earth remains as dangerously unpredictable as ever. Counselor Vril, Jun-Ho replied with a practiced smile. Our storms and earthquakes send their regards. The comment made several nearby aliens shift uncomfortably. Most Confederation species came from gentle worlds with perfect weather and little geological activity. They found Earth's conditions horrifying. The strong gravity, the extreme temperatures, the natural disasters, the dangerous wildlife. To them, humans were remarkable simply for surviving such a place. Admiral Park entered the chamber, his military uniform standing out among the flowing robes of the diplomats. He gave Jun-Ho a quick nod before taking his seat. The head counselor, a tall, thin alien named Zelnar, called the meeting to order. Esteemed representatives, we face an unprecedented crisis. After 5,000 years of silence, the Corvan Empire has returned. The chamber erupted in fearful whispers. Jun-Ho leaned toward Yoon-ji. The Corvan? Ancient empire, she whispered back. Conquered half the galaxy before disappearing. Extremely warlike. They were mentioned in only the oldest Confederation records. Zelnar continued. 3 days ago, they destroyed the Proxima colony without warning. Yesterday, they wiped out the peaceful worlds of Deneb and Altair. Our analysts predict they will reach core Confederation territories within 2 weeks. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing the Corvan battle fleet. Their ships were dark and angular, covered in what looked like bony plates. Jun-Ho studied them with a soldier's eye. He had served in the Earth Defense Force before becoming a diplomat. What are our defense options? Asked a representative from a world near the Corvan advance. Zelnar looked uncomfortable. The Confederation has always been peaceful. Our combined defense fleet is mainly for show and minor piracy issues. It was never designed to face a full invasion force. Admiral Park leaned forward. If I may speak? All eyes turned to the human. Some aliens looked hopeful, others suspicious. The Corvan fleet formation indicates a standard pincer attack strategy, Park said, pointing at the hologram. They're splitting their forces to trap defending ships. Basic military tactics. If you reposition your ships here and here, you could break their formation and force them to regroup. A tall, willowy alien rose. We cannot simply attack them. There must be a peaceful solution. I agree, said another. Violence only leads to more violence. Jun-Ho saw Admiral Park's jaw tighten. This was the problem with the Confederation. Most species had evolved in environments so gentle that they never developed the concept of warfare. They had no instinct for defense. While we seek peace, Zelnar said diplomatically, we must also prepare for the worst. What do you suggest, Admiral? Park stood and walked to the hologram. Reorganize your ships into battle groups. Establish defensive perimeters around key worlds. Begin evacuating civilians from border systems. These are the actions of a warlike species, protested one alien. These are the actions that will save lives, Park responded firmly. The debate continued for hours. The Confederation representatives argued for diplomatic solutions, for economic sanctions, for symbolic gestures. The human delegation argued for practical defense measures. In the end, The council voted to send a peace delegation to meet the Corvin fleet. "They're making a mistake," Admiral Park told Jun-Ho as they left the chamber. "The Corvin destroyed 3 worlds without communication. They don't want peace." Jun-Ho nodded. "But the council needs to learn that for themselves. They don't understand conflict like we do." "They don't understand survival like we do," Park corrected. 3 days later, the council reconvened in emergency session. The peace delegation had been destroyed without warning. 2 more Confederation worlds had fallen. Zelnar looked shaken. "The Corvin Emperor has sent a message." The hologram displayed a massive being with thick gray skin and heavy bone plates. It looked like it had evolved on a world even harsher than Earth. "Your weak species will serve the Corvin or perish," the Emperor growled. "Your resources are ours. Your worlds are ours. Surrender or be exterminated." Silence fell over the council chamber. For the first time, Jun-Ho saw real fear in the aliens' eyes. They had no concept for this kind of aggression. Yoon-Ji Lee stood. "The human delegation requests permission to speak." "Granted," Zelnar said weakly. "The Confederation faces extinction," she said clearly. "You have 2 choices. Continue as you are and be destroyed, or let humans lead your defense." Shocked murmurs filled the room. "Let the Deathworlders lead?" someone asked. "Yes," Yoon-Ji replied. "We know war. We understand defense. We have fought our own battles for thousands of years. We know how to survive." "Your species is barely space-capable," protested a counselor. "You've only been part of the Confederation for 50 years. Admiral Park stood. "And in those 50 years we've studied your technology, your ships, your capabilities. We can adapt them for defense. But you must let us take command." The council erupted in arguments. Many species feared humans almost as much as they feared the Corvin. To put humans in charge of the defense fleet seemed unthinkable, until the next report arrived. 5 more worlds have gone dark," Zelnar announced. "The Corvin fleet has increased speed. They will reach the core worlds in 4 days." The council fell silent. Jun-Ho stepped forward. "There's something else you should know. The Corvin fleet has completely avoided human territory. They've gone around Earth and all human colonies, even when it meant longer travel routes." "What does that mean?" Zelnar asked. "It means they recognize us," Admiral Park said. "They recognize that we come from a world like theirs. They see us as fellow Deathworlders. They fear you," Yoon-Ji added. The council chamber went completely silent. Finally, Zelnar spoke. "Counselor Lee, Admiral Park, Diplomat Kim, the Confederation formally requests Earth's leadership in this crisis. We need your help." Jun-Ho looked at Park and Yoon-Ji. They had finally been accepted, but only because the Confederation faced extinction. "We accept," Yoon-Ji said, "and we will save you." As the council session ended, Admiral Park received an urgent message. He showed it to Jun-Ho with a grim expression. "The Corvin Emperor wants to speak to human leaders only," he said. "He says, we should not waste our strength defending lesser species." Jun-Ho stared at the message. "They think we're like them." "Yes," Park replied. "They're about to learn that humans don't just know how to fight wars. We know how to build peace." The Mo. 2 men looked out at the stars, knowing that the real test for humanity was just beginning. General Min-Ho Kang walked through the Confederation Command Center, which had been completely transformed in just 3 days. Where once peaceful aliens had monitored trade routes and scientific missions, now humans directed defense operations. Screens displayed ship movements, resource allocations, and battle plans. "General," called a voice. Min-Ho turned to see Dr. Hee-Jin-Yoon approaching, carrying a data tablet. "I have the analysis of Corvin biology you requested." Min-Ho nodded. "Walk with me, Doctor." They moved through the busy command center. Confederation aliens worked alongside, human officers, many looking uncomfortable with the military terminology and urgency. The Corvin evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme temperature variations and high radiation levels, Dr. Yoon explained. Their bone density is twice that of humans, and their skin contains natural armor plates. So they're tougher than us, Minho said. Yes, but they have weaknesses, Dr. Yoon replied. Their eyes are adapted for a dimmer sun. Bright light confuses them, and their respiratory system struggles in humid environments. Minho smiled. Good work. Send the full report to Admiral Park. At the center of the command room stood a large holographic display showing the approaching Corvan fleet. Admiral Taewon Park and Ambassador Seok-jin Choi were studying it intensely. Any response to our communication attempts? Minho asked. As he joined them, Ambassador Choi shook his head. They refuse to speak with any non-human representatives, and their message to us remains the same. Join them or be destroyed along with the rest of the Confederation. Admiral Park pointed to the hologram. They're maintaining their current course 3 days until they reach Centauri Prime. Then we have 3 days to prepare our defense, Minho said. Where are we with training? Admiral Park grimaced. It's challenging. Most Confederation species have no concept of military discipline or tactical thinking. They've lived in peace for so long they've lost the instinct for self-preservation. Show me, Minho said. They walked to the large training hall where humans were trying to teach basic combat readiness to Confederation volunteers. The scene was almost comical. The aliens moved awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable with the concept of weapons. A human sergeant was demonstrating a defensive stance to a group of tall, willowy aliens. You must be ready to protect yourselves, he was saying. The Corvan will not show mercy. One of the aliens raised a thin hand. But why would anyone choose violence when conversation is possible? The sergeant looked like he might explode with frustration. Minho stepped forward. Because the Corvan believe that strength is the only virtue, he explained calmly. They respect only those who can fight. To them, your peaceful nature is weakness, not wisdom. The aliens looked troubled. By this concept, let me show you something, Minho continued. He picked up a training staff and held it out. This is not just a weapon. It is a tool for survival, for protecting those who cannot protect themselves. He demonstrated a simple blocking move. Sometimes, the most peaceful action is showing that you can defend yourself. It prevents others from seeing you as an easy target. Slowly, cautiously, the aliens began to copy his movements. Later, Minho met with Junho Kim in the strategy room. It's going to take time. We don't have to turn them into fighters, Minho said. Junho nodded. Then we need to use what we have. Human crews on Confederation ships. We've been studying their technology for 50 years. It's time to show what we've learned. Admiral Park entered, looking grim. The Corvan have increased speed. They'll reach Centauri Prime tomorrow. Then we meet them there, Minho decided. I want every ship with a human crew ready to move in 3 hours. That's only 37 ships, Admiral Park warned. It will have to be enough, Minho replied. Dr. Yoon rushed in. General, I have important information. The Corvan communication systems operate on predictable algorithms. They seem to follow programmed patterns rather than adaptive strategies. Can we use that? Junho asked. If we can predict their communication patterns, we might be able to confuse their coordination, Dr. Yoon said. Minho smiled. Then let's give them something unpredictable. 20 hours later, the human-crewed Confederation ships waited in orbit around Centauri Prime. The planet below had been partially evacuated, but millions of beings still remained. Admiral Park's voice came through the communication system. Remember the plan. The Corvan expect us to form a defensive line. Instead, we scatter and attack from multiple vectors. Their ships are stronger, but we are faster and more unpredictable. On the command ship, Minho watched the approaching Corvan fleet. Their ships were massive, heavily armored, and designed for frontal assault. They moved in perfect formation, like a machine rather than a fleet commanded by living beings. They're entering the system, an officer reported. Launch the light drones, Minho ordered. Thousands of small devices shot toward the Corvan fleet. As they neared, they activated, releasing bursts of intense light designed to target the Corvan visual weakness Dr. Yoon had identified. Confederation ships execute Pattern Alpha, Admiral Park commanded. Instead of forming a defensive line, the human-crewed ships broke into small groups, attacking from multiple directions. The Corvin formation faltered momentarily, confused by the unorthodox approach. "They're trying to regroup," Junho observed from his position beside Minho. "Now for Phase 2, Minho said. "Launch humidity missiles." Special weapons designed by Dr. Yoon's team fired toward the Corvin ships. When they detonated, they didn't cause explosions but instead released clouds of superhumid air near the Corvin vessels' air intakes. The effect was immediate. Several Corvin ships began to drift, their systems struggling as the crews dealt with respiratory distress. "It's working," Junho exclaimed. But the Corvin adapted quickly. Their formation changed, protecting the affected ships while others moved forward. "They're launching fighters," an officer reported. Hundreds of small Corvin attack craft poured from the larger ships. The human-crewed Confederation vessels were suddenly outnumbered. "Hold position," Admiral Park ordered. "Remember your training." The Mai battle became chaotic. Corvin fighters attacked with brutal efficiency, but the human pilots flew with creativity and instinct that the algorithmic Corvin couldn't predict. "We're losing ships," Junho said tensely. "But we're damaging theirs," Minho replied. "Look." 3 large Corvin vessels had been disabled by the combined attacks. The remaining Corvin ships were no longer in perfect formation. They moved with hesitation, as if uncertain about human tactics. "Signal Admiral Park," Minho ordered. "Pull back to position Beta." The Confederation ships began a strategic retreat, drawing the Corvin fleet into the prepared trap. As they passed a small moon, hidden Confederation weapons platforms activated, catching the Corvin fleet in crossfire. When the battle ended, the Corvin had lost 17 ships. The Confederation had lost 11. "They're retreating, Admiral," Park announced. "Centauri Prime is safe." In the command center, the Confederation aliens watched in amazement. They had never witnessed a successful defense against an aggressor. "How did you know that would work?" Counselor Yoonji asked Minho. "We didn't," he admitted. "But humans are good at adapting, at finding creative solutions when stronger forces attack." As they celebrated the victory, a communication officer approached. "General, we're receiving a direct message from the Corvin command ship. For humans only." The main screen displayed the massive form of a Corvin commander. His voice was deep and gravelly. "You fight well for a young species," he rumbled. "You do not belong with these weaklings. Join us or be destroyed." The command center fell silent. Minho stepped forward. "We decline your offer. Humans stand with the Confederation." "Then you will die with them," the Corvin commander growled. "But you will die with honor, Deathworlders." The screen went dark. Junho looked at Minho. "They still think they understand us." "They don't," Minho replied. "They think because we come from a harsh world, we must be like them. They don't understand that surviving a death world teaches cooperation as much as strength." "And now?" Counselor Yoonji asked. "Now," said Minho, "we prepare for their return, because they will come back, and next time, they'll be ready for us." The first battle had been won, but the war was just beginning. Commander Jiwoo Bei checked her equipment one final time. Her stealth suit was designed to mask her life signs from Corvin sensors. Around her, 5 other human operatives prepared for the most dangerous mission of the war. "You understand the risks," Admiral Park said, watching them. "No Confederation ship has ever returned from Corvin space. That's because no human has gone there yet," Jiwoo replied with a confident smile. The small reconnaissance ship was unlike any other in the Confederation fleet. Captain Soo-hyun Kwan had personally modified it with technology developed by science. Director Yoongi Hwang. "The stealth systems will keep you hidden," Yoongi explained, "but only for 72 hours. After that, the power cells will fail." "Then we'll be back in 71, Jiwoo said. Admiral Park nodded. "Find out what they're doing with the conquered worlds. We need to understand their strategy." 3 weeks had passed since the battle, at Centauri Prime. The Corvin had retreated, but intelligence reported they were regrouping. The Confederation Council was divided on how to proceed. As Jiwoo's team departed, Junho Kim addressed the full council. The large chamber was tense with fear and uncertainty. The humans have bought us time, Zelnar, the head counselor, was saying. But many believe we should use this time to evacuate our outer worlds and build a defensive perimeter around our core systems. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Retreat seemed the safest option to many species that had never known war. Junho stepped forward. Counselors, retreat will only delay the inevitable. The Corvin will not stop. Each world we abandon makes them stronger and us weaker. What alternative do you propose, Diplomat Kim? Asked a counselor from a world near the front line. We take the fight to them, Junho said simply. The chamber erupted in protests. Taking offensive action was unthinkable to most Confederation species. Counselor Yoonji Lee raised her hand for silence. Please listen. Humans understand conflict in ways we are only beginning to learn. If Diplomat Kim believes this is our best chance, we should consider it. Consider attacking an enemy that outguns us? Asked a skeptical counselor. Consider using our strengths, Junho corrected. The Corvin are stronger, but they're also predictable. They expect us to be weak and frightened. They don't expect us to be bold. Science Director Yoongi stood. I have been working with Confederation scientists to develop technology that might help. We call it environmental adaptation. He activated a holographic display showing a thin bodysuit. This will allow non-human Confederation species to temporarily function in harsher environments, like those the Corvin create. Why would we need that? Asked Zelnar. Because, Junho said, we need to understand what the Corvin are doing on the conquered worlds. Meanwhile, Commander Jiwoo's stealth ship slipped through Corvin space. Captain Soo-hyun guided the vessel with expert precision, avoiding detection by the numerous Corvin patrols. We're approaching the Proxima system, Soo-hyun reported. It was the first one they conquered. Jiwoo looked at the scanner readings and frowned. That can't be right. The atmospheric composition is completely different from the records. Confirmed, said one of her team members. Oxygen levels are down 30%. Radiation levels are up. Temperature has increased by 20 degrees. They're changing the planet, Jiwoo realized, making it more like their homeworld. They visited 2 more conquered systems and found the same pattern. The Corvin were terraforming every world they took, transforming them into harsh environments similar to their own Deathworld. They're not just conquering, Jiwoo said. They're remaking the galaxy to suit themselves. On the 3rd day, they approached a large space station orbiting a conquered world. Using their stealth technology, they managed to dock undetected and infiltrate the structure. Jiwoo led her team through dark corridors. The station was hot and humid, uncomfortable even for humans used to Earth's varied climates. They downloaded data from Corvin computers and planted surveillance devices. In a secure section, they found something unexpected. A laboratory filled with ancient-looking equipment and strange genetic samples. What is this? Jiwoo whispered. One of her team began downloading the data. These look like genetic manipulation tools, but far more advanced than anything in the Confederation. As they worked, Jiwoo noticed something odd about the Corvin moving through the station. They all move the same way, follow the same patterns, like they're programmed, one of her team suggested. Before they could investigate further, an alarm sounded. We've been detected, Soo-hyun warned through the communicator. Return to the ship immediately. The team barely escaped, fighting their way through Corvin guards. As they fled the system, a disturbing realization formed in Jiwoo's mind. Back at Confederation headquarters, Science Director Yoongi analyzed the stolen data. His expression grew increasingly troubled. The Corvin aren't a natural species, he finally announced to Admiral Park, Junho Kim, and General Minho Kang. They were created as weapons by a precursor race that went extinct 10,000 years ago. Weapons? Junho asked. Living weapons, Yoongi confirmed. Designed to conquer and transform worlds. Their genetic code contains programmed behaviors and responses. That's why their tactics are so predictable. They're following ancient programming. Can that help us defeat them? General Minho asked. Possibly, Yoongi said. If we understand the programming, we might be able to exploit it. Admiral Park studied the data. These terraforming operations explain why they avoided human systems. They recognized Earth as already suitable for their needs, which means they plan to take it last, Junho concluded, after they've dealt with the easier targets. Commander, Jiwoo, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. There's something else. When we were on that station, the Corvin moved like machines, but some seemed different, less robotic. Their programming might be degrading, Yoongi suggested. After thousands of years, some might be developing beyond their original design. Which means they might be reasoned with? Junho asked. Perhaps, Yoongi said, but not while they're winning. The Confederation Council convened to hear their report. Many representatives were shocked by the revelation about the Corvin origins. If they were created as weapons, they cannot help their nature, said one sympathetic counselor. All species can evolve beyond their origins, Yoongi argued. But first we must stop their advance. Junho stepped forward. The Corvin expect us to continue defending, to keep retreating. Instead, I propose a bold counteroffensive, not to destroy them, but to demonstrate that continued conquest will be too costly. A show of strength, Admiral Park added. Something they will understand. Using what resources? Zelnar asked. Our fleet is already stretched thin. Using the resources they don't expect, Junho replied. The peaceful Confederation has technologies the Corvin have never encountered because they were never weaponized. Science Director Yoongi activated a hologram showing modified Confederation ships. We've adapted your scientific vessels for tactical operations. Your terraforming technology can be reversed to counter Corvin environmental changes. Your medical tools can disable rather than kill. The Council was silent, considering this new approach. The Corvin see strength only as the ability to destroy, Junho continued. Let us show them a different kind of strength, the strength to protect, to adapt, to transform. Slowly, support began to build. Species that had never considered offensive action began to see the wisdom in Junho's plan. 3 days later, a combined human Confederation fleet launched toward a key Corvin staging area. Admiral Park commanded the Space Forces while General Minho led the ground teams equipped with Yoongi's environmental suits. The battle was fierce. The Corvin fought with programmed precision, but the Confederation forces used unpredictable tactics designed by human strategists. They didn't try to match the Corvin's strength, but instead used speed, surprise, and creativity. When it ended, the Confederation had secured its first victory on Corvin-held territory. The cost was high. Many ships and lives were lost. But something unexpected happened. Several Confederation species that had never fought before showed remarkable courage and adaptability. As they secured the system, Junho received a message from Commander Jiwoo. Her team had discovered something critical in the data they stole. The Corvin Central Command is not just a place, she reported. It's an artificial intelligence system managing their entire species. If we could reach it, we might be able to end this war without destroying them. Junho looked at Admiral Park and General Minho. We need a new plan, one that might save both sides. For the first time since the war began, they had more than just hope of survival. They had a path to peace. Vice Admiral Dae-jung Ryu stood on the bridge of the Confederation flagship, now renamed Earth Force One. Around him, a mixture of human and alien crew worked in perfect coordination. 6 months ago, such cooperation would have been unimaginable. Status. Report, Dae-jung ordered. Corvin fleet holding position at the edge of the Arcturus system, reported a blue-skinned alien officer. They appear to be waiting for reinforcements. Dae-jung studied the tactical display. The war had reached a critical phase. After 3 major victories by the combined human Confederation forces, the Corvin had pulled back to regroup. But intelligence suggested they were preparing for a massive counterattack. Where is Engineer Choi? Dae-jung asked. In the weapons lab, Admiral, replied his second-in-command. She said she has a breakthrough. Engineer Han-yul Choi had been working tirelessly to develop new weapon systems based on Dr. Yoon's research into Corvin biology. Her innovations had already proven decisive in recent battles. Dae-jung made his way to the lab, where he found Hanul surrounded by technical displays and prototype devices. "Admiral," she greeted him with tired eyes but an excited smile. "I think we've done it." She held up a small cylindrical device. "This targets the specific frequency of the neural implants all Corvin soldiers have. It won't kill them, but it will disrupt their ability to receive commands from their central control system." "How long will the effect last?" Daejung asked. "About 30 minutes, Hanul replied. "But that should be enough to create confusion in their ranks." Daejung nodded. "Mass produce as many as possible. We'll need them for the Arcturus defense." Meanwhile, in another part of the massive ship, diplomat Jaehwa Kim met with representatives from species that had previously remained neutral in the conflict. Her task was to bring them into the alliance. The Corvin seek to transform all worlds to suit their biology, she explained to the gathered delegates. "Even your distant systems will eventually be targets." A tall, crystalline being spoke. "We have observed your battles. The humans fight with unusual creativity." "We fight to protect, not just to win," Jaehwa replied. "There is a difference." "Your species was unknown to us before this conflict," said another delegate. "Now you lead the defense of the galaxy. Why should we trust you?" "Judge us by our actions," Jaehwa said simply. "We could have joined the Corvin. They invited us too as fellow Deathworlders. We chose to stand with the Confederation instead." The delegates conferred among themselves, then the crystalline being spoke again. "We will contribute ships and resources to your alliance, but we will be watching how you use this power." Jaehwa bowed slightly. "We expect nothing less." In the main conference room, Junho Kim met with Admiral Park, General Minho, and Dr. Heejin Yoon. The table was covered with data displays showing Corvin movements and biological information. "We've completed our analysis of the genetic samples from the Corvin laboratory," Dr. Yoon announced. "The results are troubling." She activated a holographic display showing complex DNA strands. "The Corvin aren't just programmed for conquest. Their biology makes them incapable of peace. Their neural pathways are designed to experience pleasure only when fighting or conquering. They physically cannot choose another path." "Are you saying they can't be reasoned with?" Junho asked. "Not as they are," Dr. Yoon replied. "Their creators engineered them to be perfect warriors with no ability to choose another purpose." Admiral Park frowned. "Then our only option is to destroy them." "Perhaps not," Dr. Yoon said. "Science Director Huang and I have been working on an alternative. If we can reach their central AI system, we might be able to modify their programming, not to control them, but to give them the ability to choose." "Free will," Junho said quietly. "Yes," Dr. Yoon nodded. "But to do that, we would need to reach their homeworld." General Minho, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "That would require breaking through their heaviest defenses. The cost would be enormous." "And if we don't?" Junho asked. "We continue fighting a war against beings who cannot choose peace? That seems like a greater cost." Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication. The Corvin fleet had begun moving toward Arcturus Prime, a major Confederation world. On the bridge of Earth Force One, Vice Admiral Daejung directed the defense. The combined fleet of human and Confederation ships formed a new type of formation, one developed by merging human military tactics with Confederation technology. "Corvin fleet entering weapons range," reported an officer. "Launch disruption probes," Daejung ordered. Hundreds of small devices developed by engineer Hanul shot toward the Corvin fleet. As they neared, they activated, sending carefully calibrated signals to interfere with the Corvin neural implants. The effect was immediate and visible. The perfect Corvin formation began to waver as individual ships lost coordination with the greater force. "Now for Phase 2, Daejung said. "Tactical groups Alpha through Delta, execute flanking maneuver." The smaller, faster ships of the Confederation fleet darted forward, targeting the now confused Corvin vessels. Unlike previous battles where the Confederation forces had suffered heavy losses, this time they struck with surgical precision, disabling rather than destroying when possible. In the midst of the battle, something unexpected happened. Some of the Confederation species that had once been completely peaceful showed remarkable skill and courage. A group of crystalline beings used their natural ability to refract energy to disrupt Corvan weapons. Gaseous aliens who could survive. In space moved between ships, providing critical repairs during combat. They're adapting, Junho observed from the command center, learning to use their unique abilities in ways they never considered. The battle raged for hours. When it ended, the Corvan fleet had been decisively defeated. For the first time, the Confederation forces had won without suffering massive casualties. As the celebration began, Admiral Park received a troubling report. The Corvan are falling back to their core systems, and our deep space sensors detect unusual energy readings. What kind of readings? Junho asked. Consistent with ancient weapons platforms being reactivated, Admiral Park replied grimly. The kind that could sterilize entire star systems. The jubilation quickly faded. The Confederation Council convened an emergency session. We cannot allow them to activate these weapons, Zelnar declared. They must be stopped. The only way to ensure that is to strike at their control center, Admiral Park said. Their homeworld. A tense silence fell over the council chamber. Such an offensive action would have been unthinkable months ago. If we destroy their central AI, what happens to the Corvan? Asked a counselor. Dr. Yoon stepped forward. Based on our research, they would become directionless, possibly self-destructive. Their programming doesn't allow for independence. So, either way, we're talking about the end of their species, Junho said. Unless, Dr. Yoon continued, we can replace their programming with something else. Not control, but choice. You want to reprogram an entire species? Zelnar asked, sounding shocked. No, Junho corrected. We want to free them from their programming. There's a difference. The debate continued for hours. Many counselors argued that the Corvan were too dangerous to save. Others questioned the ethics of such deep intervention in another species. Finally, Counselor Yoonji Lee spoke. We stand at a crossroads. We can choose to be mere survivors of this war, or we can choose to be something more. The true mark of an advanced civilization is not just the ability to destroy enemies, but the wisdom to transform them into allies. Slowly, support began to build for the daring plan. A joint mission would target the Corvan homeworld, not to destroy it, but to reach the central AI and attempt to modify it. Admiral Park and General Minho began planning the most dangerous operation of the war. It would require every ship, every soldier, and every bit of courage the Alliance could muster. As the preparations continued, Junho found Dr. Yoon working late in her lab. Do you really think this can work? He asked her. She looked up from her calculations. I think we have to try. Otherwise, we're just proving that Deathworlders are only good at one thing. Death. Junho nodded. And we came here to prove something else. Yes, Dr. Yoon said softly. That we don't just win wars, we build something better after them. The time had come for the final battle. But the goal was no longer destruction. It was transformation. The combined fleet moved through space with grim determination. Every available ship from Earth and the Confederation had been gathered for this final mission. At the center of the formation flew Earth Force One, carrying the leaders who would determine the fate of the galaxy. Admiral Taewon Park stood at the command station, his face showing the weight of responsibility. Beside him, General Minho Kang reviewed the ground assault plans one final time. We'll have one chance, Minho said quietly. The Corvan will throw everything they have at us. Admiral Park nodded. The space battle is just a distraction. What matters is getting your team to the central AI facility. On the lower deck, Dr. Hee-jin Yoon and Science Director Yoon-gi Hwang made final adjustments to the reprogramming device they had created. It was the product of countless hours of work, merging human creativity with Confederation technology. If this works, Yoon-gi said, it will be the first time in history that a war ended by giving an enemy freedom, rather than taking it away. And, if it doesn't? Dr. Yoon asked. Yoon-gi's expression was somber. Then we've doomed two civilizations instead of saving them both. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Corvin home system. Immediately, alerts sounded. Throughout the ships, massive energy readings, reported an officer. The Corvin have activated their doomsday weapons. On the view screen, they could see ancient orbital platforms powering up around the Corvin homeworld. These weapons were capable of destroying entire fleets or sterilizing planets. All ships, execute Pattern Omega, Admiral Park ordered. Focus fire on those platforms. The battle erupted with terrifying intensity. Corvin ships rushed to meet the invaders, fighting with the desperate fury of beings defending their home. The Confederation fleet split into the formations they had practiced, each group targeting specific objectives. On Earth Force One, Junho Kim watched the battle unfold. Despite all their planning, the cost was already becoming clear. Ships on both sides exploded in silent bursts of light. "Launch the landing craft," Admiral Park commanded when a temporary gap appeared in the Corvin defenses. 5 heavily armored vessels broke away from the main fleet, heading toward the Corvin homeworld. General Minho led the assault team, with Dr. Yoon and Yoongi carrying the vital reprogramming device. As they descended through the atmosphere, one of the landing craft was hit by defensive fire and spiraled away, trailing smoke. The remaining 4 adjusted their course and continued downward. 2 minutes to landing, the pilot announced. Minho looked at his team. Humans made up half the strike force, but the rest were Confederation species who had volunteered for this dangerous mission. Among them was a tall, crystalline being who had once been a philosopher before the war. "Remember," Minho told them all, "our goal is the central facility. We disable, not kill when possible." The landing was rough but successful. As soon as the doors opened, they faced Corvin defenders. The battle on the ground was as fierce as the one in space. The Corvin fought with programmed efficiency, but the strike team had trained for this moment. Human soldiers provided covering fire while the Confederation allies used their unique abilities. The crystalline being refracted energy weapons. A low-gravity species made impossible leaps to outflank the enemy. They pushed forward meter by meter toward the central complex. In space, the battle took a dire turn. One of the ancient weapon platforms fired, its beam cutting through 3 Confederation ships instantly. "We've lost Gamma Squadron," an officer reported. Admiral Park's expression didn't change. "Continue the attack. We need to buy them more time." Then something unexpected happened. A group of ships from a previously neutral species arrived, joining the Confederation fleet. They were followed by other species that had been watching and waiting to see which side would prevail. "They're helping us," Junho realized. "They've decided humans are worth supporting." On the planet's surface, the strike team reached the central complex. It was a massive structure of dark metal, built into the side of a mountain. Corvin defenders had established a seemingly impenetrable line at the entrance. "We need a new approach," Minho said, studying the defenses. The crystalline being stepped forward. "I believe I can help, General." To everyone's surprise, the being walked toward the Corvin line, its body beginning to glow with increasing brightness. The Corvin fired, but their energy weapons were absorbed and refracted, creating a dazzling display of light that confused and disoriented them. "Now," Minho ordered. The strike team rushed forward, using the distraction to break through the defensive line. They fought their way into the complex, moving deeper into the heart of the Corvin control system. In a vast chamber at the center of the facility, they found what they were looking for. The Corvin Central AI was a towering structure of ancient technology, glowing with pulsing energy. Around it, Corvin technicians worked at control stations. "Cover me," Dr. Yoon said as she and Yoongi approached the central terminal. Minho and his team engaged the remaining Corvin defenders while the scientists began their work. They connected their device to the AI system and started the reprogramming sequence. Suddenly, an alarm sounded. The chamber darkened, then illuminated with red emergency lighting. "What's happening?" Minho shouted. "The AI is fighting back," Yoongi replied, typing frantically. "It's trying to purge our code." Dr. Yoon worked alongside him, both scientists, racing against time. "We need more processing power to overcome its defenses," the crystalline being approached them. Perhaps I can assist. It placed its hands on their device, channeling energy into it. The device began to glow brighter. It's working, Dr. Yoon said. Keep going. In space, Admiral Park received a message from the surface team. They've reached the AI, but they need more time. How much more? He asked. Unknown, came the reply. Admiral Park looked at the battle raging around them. They had already lost. Too many ships. The remaining doomsday platforms were still active, threatening to destroy the entire fleet. All ships, he commanded. Concentrate fire on the closest platform. We need to take at least one of them out. The Confederation ships coordinated their attack with a precision that would have been impossible months ago. The focused barrage overwhelmed the ancient weapons defenses, and it exploded in a massive burst of energy. Inside the Corvin complex, Dr. Yoon looked up from her work. It's done. The reprogramming is complete. Throughout the facility, the Corvin suddenly stopped fighting. They stood motionless, as if listening to something only they could hear. Did it work? Minho asked. We'll find out soon, Dr. Yoon replied. Outside, the space battle also paused as the Corvin ships ceased firing. A tense silence fell across both fleets. We're receiving a transmission, reported an officer on Earth Force One, from the Corvin homeworld. On the screen appeared the image of a Corvin, different from any they had seen before. Its eyes held something new, uncertainty. What have you done to us? It asked, its voice lacking the usual aggressive tone. Junho stepped forward. We've given you a choice. Your creators made you for war, but you can choose a different path. Choice, the Corvin repeated, as if testing an unfamiliar concept. We do not understand. You will, Junho said. That's what freedom means. The chance to understand for yourself. 3 months later, the Galactic Confederation Hall was filled for a historic occasion. Representatives from all member species gathered to elect a new Supreme Counselor. Junho stood with Admiral Park and General Minho, watching as Counselor Eunji Lee was sworn in as the first human to lead the Confederation. Did you ever imagine this outcome when we first met the Corvin? Junho asked. Admiral Park shook his head. I expected to win the war. I never expected to gain an ally. The rehabilitation of the Corvin was proceeding slowly but steadily. Without their original programming forcing them to conquer, they were discovering new purposes. Their strength and endurance, once used only for war, now made them excellent explorers and protectors. After the ceremony, a Corvin representative approached the human delegation. It was the same one who had first spoken to them after the reprogramming. We have been studying your history, it said. You come from a harsh world, like ours. Yet you chose a different path than conquest. We had choices, Minho replied. Now you do too. The Corvin seemed to consider this. We are learning that true strength is not measured by what you can destroy, but by what you can build. Junho smiled. That's what makes a species capable of ruling empires, not just winning wars. As they looked out at the gathered representatives of the galaxy, Junho thought about how far they had all come. Humans had arrived in the Confederation as mistrusted Deathworlders. Now they were valued leaders, not because they were strongest or most ruthless, but because they understood something that neither the peaceful Confederation nor the warlike Corvin had grasped. That the greatest power comes from balancing strength with compassion, from knowing when to fight and when to make peace. The former, enemies now stood together, looking toward a future that none of them could have imagined before. A future built not on conquest or surrender, but on transformation and choice. That was the true legacy of Earth's Deathworlders. Not just the ability to survive harsh conditions or win impossible battles, but the wisdom to build something better afterward. The ability